The morning sun painted the open plains of Texas in golden hues as I saddled my horse and looked out across the thousands of acres I called home. My ranch wasn't just land, it was my family's legacy passed down for generations. Every fence post, creek, and mesquite tree held history. Out here, you lived by hard work, respect, an unspoken code among neighbors. You don't take what isn't yours. That's why my blood boiled the day I discovered that Karen, the newly elected HOA president from the nearby suburban development, had decided my land was up for grabs. She wasn't content managing the cookie-cutter houses in her gated subdivision. No, she had grand visions of expanding her community. And she figured the empty stretch of my ranch bordering there HOA fence was the perfect spot for her pet project, a private clubhouse and tennis court. And the worst part? She didn't even ask the first sign of trouble. It started small. One morning, while riding the south pasture, spotted fresh tire tracks cutting across the dirt road leading toward my creek. That was odd. No one had permission to be on my land. When I followed them, I found something that made my jaw tighten. Survey stakes driven into the ground. Bright orange tape flapping in the breeze. I yanked one out of the soil and tossed it aside. Somebody was trespassing and staking claims. Later, that week, I got my answer. A convoy of trucks rolled in, contractors and hard hats unloading equipment. And there she was, Karen. Designer sunglasses, clipboard in hand. Barking orders like a drill sergeant. "This is private property," I said, approaching her on horseback. She barely glanced up. "Don't worry," she said with a dismissive wave. "The HOA has approved this project. We're putting in a recreation center. It'll raise everyone's property value, including yours." "My land's not for sale," I snapped. "Pack up your trucks and get off." That's when she smirked. "Actually, according to our survey, this strip is within HOA jurisdiction. You should be thanking us." I leaned down from the saddle, eyes narrowed. "Lady, that survey's wrong. This ranch has been in my family for over 100 years. You're standing on Martin land and you're trespassing." She scoffed. "We'll see about that." The escalation the next week, concrete trucks rolled in. Despite my warnings, they poured a foundation. Rebar jutted up like weeds in the dirt. Watching it happen on my own soil was like being robbed in broad daylight. I called the sheriff, came out, looked around, and sighed. "It's a civil dispute," he said. "Take it up in court." Karen knew exactly how to play the game.
Ow! She had lawyers, HOA money, and a smug confidence that I wouldn't fight back.
But she miscalculated one thing: I don't back down when someone threatens my land. I filed an injunction. My attorney dug up every deed, every survey map going back to the early 1900s. There was no question it was my ranch. But while the paperwork crawled through the courts, Karen pushed ahead. Walls went up. Trucks came in daily. The so-called clubhouse took shape: brick siding, glass windows, the whole deal. Each day I rode past, fury burned in my chest. She wasn't just building a legalese, she was challenging me, daring me to do something about it. The breaking point, the final straw, came one evening when I rode down to check my cattle. I found my south gate lock chain shut with a brand new padlock. My cattle couldn't access the creek for water. Plastered on the gate was an HOA notice: private property, no ranch access. Violators will be prosecuted. That was it. I cut the lock with bolt cutters, drove my cattle through, and stormed straight toward the construction site. Floodlights glared across the half-finished building, and workers froze as I rode in, shotgun strapped across my back. Karen emerged from the shadows, smug as ever. "You can't be here," she snapped. "This is my land," I growled, dismounting. "I warned you. You crossed the line." She crossed her arms. "The HOA has rights. If you threaten me, I'll have you arrested." That's when I pulled the shotgun down, not aimed at her, but at the shiny new padlock she'd just installed on another gate. One blast echoed across the valley, and the lock shattered, clattering to the dirt. The workers jumped back. The face went pale. "You're done here," I said coldly. "No more trucks, no more concrete. Pack it all up and leave."
Oh.
Her lips trembled, but she tried to stand her ground. "Ouch," "Lady," I said, stepping closer, voice low, "you've been trespassing, stealing water access, threatening me with fake authority. The next call I make is to the Texas Rangers. They don't play games with land theft." This showdown, the standoff lasted what felt like an eternity. Workers whispered nervously, backing toward their trucks. Karen's hands shook as she fumbled with her phone, trying to call someone, anyone. But when the sheriff rolled up, lights flashing, it didn't go the way she expected. This time I had come prepared. I handed over a thick folder of my deeds, survey maps, and the injunction papers signed by the judge just that morning. The sheriff read them carefully, then turned to Karen. "Ma'am, you and your crew are trespassing. You need to vacate immediately." "What?" she shrieked. "This is HOA land. I've invested thousands, ma'am," the sheriff interrupted firmly. "If you don't leave, I'll have no choice but to arrest you for trespassing." "An unlawful construction." Her face crumpled. The color drained. Tears welled in her eyes as the reality sank in. The contractors didn't wait. They packed their tools and peeled out of there. Leaving her standing alone in the dust, she tried to protest, but her voice cracked. You don't understand. I was just trying to improve the community." I stared at her unflinching. "You don't improve a community by stealing from your neighbors." Finally, with her mascara streaking down her cheeks, she turned and stumbled to her car. The once high and mighty HOA queen drove off sobbing, humiliated in front of everyone. Aftermath: the half-built clubhouse sat abandoned for months, before a demolition crew finally tore it down at Karen's expense. The court ordered the HOA to pay damages for trespassing, plus the cost of repairing my land, Karen. She resigned from the HOA presidency not long after. Rumor had it she moved away, unable to face the embarrassment. As for me, I rebuilt the South Gate, stronger than ever. And every time I ride past that patch of ground, I remember the lesson. On the open plains, respect matters. You earn it by hard work, honesty, in knowing when to stand your ground. Karen thought she could bully her way into taking what wasn't hers. Instead, she learned that out here, the land remembers, and it doesn't forgive trespassers. This story is just the beginning. There is so much more ahead. Subscribe to the channel to join me on this journey.